Takeoff aborted on charter flight to Bougainville. Plan for the UN to build on. And Education Minister responds to growing dissent from teachers.
This is National EMTV News with Helen Sayer.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. This is Tuesday's news. An Air Niugini aircraft had to abort takeoff this morning following an engine failure in the final moments of takeoff. EMTV News senior journalist and anchor Meriba Tulo was on board with other media personnel and officers from the Department of Finance and Treasury. The chartered flight was to Kieta and then on to Bougainville for the 2018 Finance Heads meeting, when the Fokker 70 had to be towed back. This latest incident comes following confirmation from the airline of the death of a missing passenger from the Chuk landing mishap.
It looks like things may not be going well for the national carrier. An aborted landing this morning due to engine failure for PX 9260, a chartered flight for the Department of Finance that had been scheduled to travel to Kieta, then on to Bougainville. The Fokker 70 had to be towed back, and its passengers, among whom were media personnel and officers from the Department of Finance and Treasury, offloaded. This latest unfortunate aircraft mishap comes as the airline confirmed that the sole missing male passenger from PX 073 Chuk flight, who was believed to be from Indonesia, was confirmed dead. In a media statement, the airline company CEO Tahawa Durrani said, quote, "It is with deep sadness I confirm that the body of the male passenger was discovered by divers today as they conducted a further search of P2PXE and the surrounding areas in the Chuk Lagoon. This is the unaccounted passenger from the aircraft. Our outreach team is in touch with the man's family and we are making arrangements to repatriate his body. The circumstances surrounding these accidents are now a matter for relevant authorities as they begin their task of investigating the events that led to the incident and the actions which followed. We are committing all required resources to ascertain the factors that led to this accident. We express our deepest sympathy to his family. We are and will continue to provide support to his family in this time of loss." End quote. Air Niugini had in a previous statement said US Navy divers had searched the aircraft and found nobody on board, and the passengers was sighted boarding a rescue boat. Meanwhile, reports from Micronesia claimed the body was found on the aircraft. Adelaide Sirox Kari, National EMTV News.
In news just in, confirmation that the male passenger who had died during the PX 073 Chuk landing mishap was found in the aircraft, which had sunken 33 meters into the lagoon. Civil Aviation Minister Alfred Manasseh, in a media statement late this afternoon, said at 2:50 p.m. yesterday the body of the passenger presumed missing was located in the aircraft wreckage. Minister Manasseh said due to fuel leakage from the aircraft, the search had been delayed until the area was safe for divers. US Navy divers then extracted the deceased passenger from the Boeing 737. Also at 2:35 p.m. today, civilian divers contracted by FSM recovered the flight data recorder from the aircraft, and diving will continue tomorrow to recover the cockpit voice recorder and other recording devices. The recorders will then be transported to the PNG AIC laboratory in Port Moresby for data downloading and analysis. Prime Minister Peter O'Neill was in East New Britain today to attend the launching of two significant projects in the province. Mr. O'Neill spent at least 7 hours in Kokopo before returning to Port Moresby. During his short stay, he officiated at the groundbreaking of a new overhead bridge in Kokopo town and officially launched East New Britain's autonomy.
Prime Minister Peter O'Neill arrived a little after 10 a.m. today at the Tokua Airport. He came to officiate the launching of East New Britain's autonomy and the groundbreaking for the construction of a footbridge in the heart of Kokopo town.
You may play the man, please.
This was the first time for Mr. O'Neill to visit the province since retaining his seat as the Prime Minister, and he spent about 7 hours in Kokopo town, most of which was spent at the Kokopo Festival Village, where he officially launched East New Britain's autonomy.
This is a momentous and historic occasion for East New Britain and Papua New Guinea.
Accompanying him were other government ministers, including New Ireland Governor Sir Julius Chan, who arrived in the middle of the proceeding. His presence was nevertheless welcomed.
You have truly stood the odds to deliver your promises, Prime Minister, to the people of this country by making this decentralization reform a reality today.
New Ireland, East New Britain and Enga provinces are the first three provinces to be granted an autonomy. Given the importance of this day, the Prime Minister has yet again reaffirmed the stand of the current government.
The last 43 years we've seen Waigani taking control of everything, where people were left alone and left isolated. That is why we need to make sure that funds and resources go direct to the people. That is the aim of this government. That is what we have been doing over the last 5 years, and that is what we are going to continue to do over the next 5 years.
While the launching of the provincial autonomy today finally put an end to East New Britain's quest for an autonomy, it only marks the start of many challenges to come for the East New Britain's provincial government to fulfill the national government's expectations. Edwin Fidelis, National EMTV News, Kokopo.
Lands and Physical Planning Minister Justin Tichenko has made available prime development land for the United Nations to develop. The land will be used by the United Nations to build an office complex in Port Moresby. The land title was presented to the United Nations Resident Coordinator Jean-Luc Arampola at the Lands Department office today.
The piece of land next to Morata House at Waigani's office center will be used by the United Nations to build the office complex. Lands and Physical Planning Minister Justin Tichenko, when presenting the title, says the Lands Department is focused on service delivery and that piece of land will be used to build their office in PNG. It will help support their work in the country.
The processes are done properly and professionally. For transparency and also to ensure that the department is looked in another light where it can serve the people with honesty and good. And when we have these issues here about land being given to our fellow countrymen and also for United Nations and other diplomatic causes, we want to make sure it's done properly and correctly for the benefit of everybody concerned.
The office complex, called the Green United Nations House, will help reduce the high rental costs and other operating costs in the city. UN Resident Coordinator Gianluca Rampola says the economic benefits of the building will include the use of renewable energy, reduced security costs and transportation costs. He said the office is for the people to access and use, and it is to help the people of Papua New Guinea.
And we want to have a new landmark just here in Waigani that will represent a number of things. Aesthetically, we hope that we'll be able to combine both traditions and modernity. Okay. Similar to what you did with the APEC house. Yes. It will have to be energy efficient, environmentally friendly. We're going to reduce as much as we can the carbon footprint. It's going to be your house. It's going to be the Papua New Guinean's house. Papua New Guinea is a member of a member state of the United Nations, and the house is going to be open.
The coordinator thanked the government for seeing their need and helping them with the piece of land. The UN estimates that the construction of the Green UN House will be completed within 18 months. Rayon Lakingu, National EMTV News.
Despite a slight improvement in foreign exchange into Papua New Guinea, there is still high demand for foreign currency. In its latest monetary policy statement, Bank of Papua New Guinea has revealed that as of the end of August, the total outstanding orders for foreign currency stands at 1.7 billion kina. However, according to Treasurer Charles Abel, this backlog will decline in the coming months.
In its September monetary policy statement, the central bank has provided an update on the current state of the economy. It says the higher than anticipated recovery in production of LNG following the earthquake in February, along with improved prices and production of some of PNG's major export commodities, contributed to ongoing economic activity during the first half of 2018. On the GDP front, the government has revised downwards its real gross domestic growth forecast for this year to 1% from 2.4%. According to the central bank, overall GDP growth is expected to be driven by the non-mining sector. High government expenditure, Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation-related activities, and the turnaround in private sector credit will also contribute to growth in economic activity.
I made some press statements about that process and how it was part of the staged process in terms of our inaugural sovereign bond. And I explained that that bond was a part of our medium-term debt strategy, and it's something, in fact, that Papua New Guinea has been talking about for a long time, but never been able to actually bring it to some sort of meaningful progress. And so it was not a new initiative. It's something that has actually been worked on for many years. We just, through Treasury and our Bank of Papua New Guinea, have been more focused in making sure that each and every element of the 2018 budget, and of course through the medium-term debt strategy 2019 and 2020, that we deliver all those elements.
As for APEC spending, the central bank expects the hosting of APEC to positively impact the economy, increase business activity, and raise the profile of PNG as an investment and tourism destination. It says short-term impact may be limited, however, it may have a significant impact on growth in the long run. Regarding foreign exchange, BPNG says the total outstanding orders for foreign currency have declined from 2.2 billion kina in March to 1.7 billion kina at the end of August. This has been due to an improvement in foreign exchange inflows into the domestic market, much of this from agriculture exports, tax revenue and other sources. The bank says to address this issue, it will use the foreign exchange inflows from external financing sources and mining and petroleum taxes to support the market over time. Treasurer Charles Abel recently said that the current backlog would be eased in the coming months as a result of more inflows into the economy, especially on the back of the successful issuing of PNG's first sovereign bond. The full version of BPNG's September monetary policy statement is available on MTV's website. Meribatulo, National MTV News.
United States President Donald Trump has reportedly told Foreign Affairs Minister Mbek Pato that APEC will be a spectacle of an event for Papua New Guinea. A statement from the minister's office this afternoon said while at a reception in New York City, President Trump said he wishes PNG all the best in hosting this big event. According to the statement, President Trump said he would be well represented at the APEC Leaders Summit by Vice President Mike Pence. Both Vice President Pence and his wife Karen expressed to Minister Pato that they were looking forward to being in PNG for the APEC meeting. This is National MTV News for the second day of October. Still ahead, our coverage of the teachers' pay deduction story. And we were able to get a response from Education Minister Nick Kuman. Stay tuned for that. Welcome back to the news. All 27 teachers teaching at Milford Haven Primary School in Lae have come forward today, saying their salaries were deducted over the last 3 fortnights without any explanations. Some had 300 kina deducted. Yesterday, 33 teachers of Omili Primary School reported that each of them had 200 kina deducted from their salaries over 2 fortnights.
The head teacher of Milford Haven Primary School in Lae, John Aguse, is one of the 27 teachers whose pays were cut. After a 400 kina pay cut, he was left with 550 kina in his account. Mr. Aguse is a father of 7 and was posted to Lae this year from Menyamia Primary School. He is currently renting accommodation here in Lae with his family.
I'm renting a house and I'm not leaving the school and traveling, and I was also with my children. I cannot be able to afford that on that fortnight.
Annie Quilla is a senior teacher, a 41-year veteran of the teaching service who has taught at Milford Haven Primary School for 22 years. Today, she asked the government to explain why she got a pay cut.
There must be something done. If you want good standard-based curriculum, you must try to help all the teachers, so you will see a quality done in our country.
Yesterday, 33 teachers from Omili Primary School reported that each of them had 200 kina deducted from their salaries over 2 fortnights. One of the teachers didn't receive any pay at all, while another had only 10 kina in her account after the deductions.
The last thing you can hold a teacher in contempt is pay. The last thing that you can do is their pay. You don't touch their pay. And whatever reasons the government may have, you don't touch their pay.
The 27 teachers said apart from the current deductions from the salaries, the tax payments have also risen.
Tax deductions like my pay, regarding my pay, in 2012 pay deductions was 70 plus, maybe 78 kina, but by this time the pay deductions has risen up to 200 kina, which I'm not happy with, because the cost of living is really giving us a lot of problem.
For now, the teachers are confused about the deductions made to their salaries for the last 3 fortnights. This is because it's difficult for them to obtain the payslips using the payroll system that was introduced by the government in 2016.
That ALESCO system doesn't really help us. And, you know, it's our right to know about the pay that we are awarded. And I feel that the department should look into that and see our grievances. We should know our annual salary plus the fortnight salary, and even the deductions that are going on. Some of them we don't know because the system is not very clear to us.
For deducting huge amount of money from the teachers' wage salaries over the last 3 fortnights, they have not explained the reason why they are doing that. So we are really confused. Someone has to come and tell us why this is happening.
Julie Badui Owa, National MTV News, Leh.
At Malahang Technical High School, all 32 teachers had between 200 and 300 kina deducted from their salaries. One teacher received 45 kina. Deputy Principal Charlie Sigimat says the teachers have not received any valid explanations as to why their pays have been cut.
Today we went to the Malahang Technical High School in Leh. The Deputy Principal Charlie Sigimet invited us to speak with teachers who are being affected by recent pay cuts.
And with only 200 kina that I received from last pay, all that money is gone, and now this week the food in the house will run out by, let's say, Thursday.
One of the teachers here has had 200 kina cut from her pay in the last fortnight.
After it cannot cater for 2 weeks, the money that I am having in my fortnight pay.
These pay cuts have placed financial burdens on the teachers and their families. Albina Jomkalop says this is also affecting teachers' performances.
It affects our job as well. We don't attend well to our students. We don't perform to the standard.
As a deputy principal here, I'm really concerned about what that will do to affect teachers' performances. And if the teachers are not in the classroom, the students are going to be all over the place.
All 32 teachers here have been affected for the last 3 fortnights. From reports, the lowest one teacher he received was 45 kina.
I don't know what he's going to do with that 45 kina, 78 toya. He has families and he has bills to pay and other things. He has children in school.
Charlie Clyde Tikaro, a teacher at Leh Secondary School, showed us his payslip. His salary was cut by 200 kina. There was no explanation on his payslip.
When the full pay comes in, then they just put full pay. And when they deduct our pay, nothing. There is no justification given on the payslips.
He is also demanding an explanation from the education authorities. Lucy Kopana, National MTV News, Leh.
Teachers in Western Highlands Province, like their colleagues in other centres, are facing dual deductions from their net salaries. Teachers from a primary school in Mount Hagen told MTV News today that their contribution to PNG Teachers Association has been over-deducted. Recently, they have been faced with pay cuts. Vasanatayama files this report from Mount Hagen.
Teachers from Mount Hagen T Primary School, one of the populated schools in the country with over 2,000 students, is going through the same plight of experiencing pay cuts to their pay periods of the 18th and 20th. Some of the teachers we spoke to say their pays had between 120 and 320 kina deducted.
We are really frustrated. There is no explanation given to our pay deductions. And that amount of money is too much for us.
These teachers feel that they have been underrepresented by the PNG Teachers Association. School Principal David Numbaming has received a Supreme Court order as a legal standing to talk on behalf of the financial members of PNG-TA about their welfare and issues. Mr. Numbaming says teachers have been faced with over-deducting of their 1% contribution to PNG-TA for the last 10 years. The recent pay cut is a burden and financial stress to his teachers and their families.
The current purported regime in office, they are illegal and they are resuming false authority. So there's no PNG to talk about teachers' issue.
Many of the teachers we spoke to said they have loans to repay and such deductions are frustrating.
I've seen that over-deducting affects a lot of things in my personal life.
One of the teachers we spoke to, Ruth Yawija, has been teaching for well over 30 years, and she said she is not benefiting from her contribution to PNG-TA. Mrs. Yawija says PNG-TA should stand up for its members and speak of such issues. She feels that teachers should be well compensated.
PNG-TA is illegal. I'm one of the members. This is my 34 years of teaching, and I've been paying this. PNG-TA for all this time, and I don't know what the benefits are. We have never consented to these deductions.
Since the reintroduction of standard-based curriculum to schools this year, teachers have been spending long hours in the classroom preparing lessons. Some feel that this is daylight robbery and there needs to be an explanation from the Teachers Services Commission.
Mouthpiece, as teachers, Supreme Court recognized leader, I asked the TSC and the department to explain to teachers why these 2 paydays there was heavy deduction from teachers' pay packet.
Fastinata Yama, National EMTV News, Mount Hagen.
Education Minister Nick Kuman has responded to complaints about teacher pay cuts all over the country, saying what is being received by the teachers is their normal pay. Minister Kuman said teachers have received lump sums of a 3% salary increment over 4 fortnights and it had ended. He maintains that what the teachers are experiencing is not a deduction of 200 kina from their salaries, but the payment of their usual salaries. Mr. Kuman also admitted the Finance Department was also having problems with the Alesco system, but those problems had been fixed.
And the last pay that they got was pay 19. That's it. That's the last pay of the lump sum of 200 kina that was paid to our teachers right throughout the country. And they received that 200 kina for a couple of pays preceding to pay 19. So what they have seen on pay 20 is their normal salary. They revert back to the normal pay with the 3% increase been accommodated in their normal pay, and that's the only increase that they have, and it's no longer a lump sum they got. So their lump sum was terminated on pay 19. So that's where it is. So it's not a deduction of 200 kina out from their pay. The lump sum they got, it came to an end on page 19. So that's the answer to the queries that has been raised on the social media and our print media and so electronic media. This is the position of the government. We have not taken out the 200 kina from the teachers' pay, but the lump sum that was paid to them that stem out from the 2016 agreement.
The PNG Cancer Foundation, in partnership with Laga Industries and Paradise Foods, launched the pink ribbon labelled Tropical Oasis Purified Water today in Port Moresby in support of Pinktober. Women's Cancers Awareness Month. Proceeds from the sale of nearly 1 million pink-labeled water bottles in the next 3 months will go to the PNG Cancer Foundation, helping them in their fight against cancers that affect women in Papua New Guinea.
A staggering number of women in Papua New Guinea die every year from a variety of cancers that can be avoided if appropriate measures are taken, or curable if detected and treated in the early stages. According to the World Health Organization, 1 in every 3 cancer cases would have been avoided simply by choosing a healthier lifestyle. To fight the battle against women's cancer, both Paradise Foods and Laga Industries have partnered with PNG Cancer Foundation in supporting the work of the foundation through its in-country awareness programs.
Our plan to support the Cancer Foundation is 1 million bottles of Tropical Oasis, and out of that hopefully we'll be back here sometime towards the end of the year or possibly in January to hand over a nice cheque with the proceeds that we've been able to raise.
Executive Manager of the PNG Cancer Foundation says education is the key to empowering women across PNG on the importance of prevention and early detection to reduce the risk of developing cancer.
So we're very, very grateful for them to come on board and to support this awareness. And we were just having a chat earlier on about, the support that we need from the corporates.
Also present to witness the launch was Chairman of Paradise Foods, Anthony Smare, who thanked PNG Cancer Foundation for their work on disseminating information in local communities on cancer prevention and early detection.
Something that I think we should look at developing that relationship and doing a lot more to impact, extending the work of the PNG Cancer Foundation. Now, Priscilla and the Cancer Foundation do tremendous work, and they need significant support of both government, but particularly corporate donors and community agents to help extend that work and to save the lives of our women and put our country onto a greater path to prosperity and social development.
PNG Cancer Foundation is currently carrying out awareness in primary schools around the country, including Alatau, Kimbe, NCD and Central. The pink ribbon labelled Tropical Oasis water will be available in leading retail outlets throughout the month of October and November 2018. Godwin Eki, National EMTV News.
A contestant from Miss Pacific Islands pageant Miss Sanctuary, Florence Staple, donated to a charity of choice Cheshire Disability Service 1,000 kina. This is a part of MPIP's initiative of giving ownership to contestants to donate to their charity of choice from the funds that have been given by their sponsors. Ms. Staples said the reason behind the donation was to promote equal participation. She said that she wanted to ensure that they aren't forgotten. The official pageant week is set to begin on Sunday, October 28th, and contestants are currently in preparation with their respective sponsors, designers and chaperones. You're at National EMTV News. Stay tuned for stories making headlines overseas when we come back. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas, Indonesian authorities have revealed why the tsunami warning system failed so badly, killing hundreds on the island of Sulawesi. They say text messages were repeatedly sent to mobile phones, but by then the quake had destroyed the communications network. On top of that, many of the tide measuring centers had not been maintained. The nearest one still working was 200 kilometers away and reported a sea rise of only 6 centimeters.
This collapse has become a sobering seafront spectacle for the residents of Palu. Today they turned out in force on what's left of their coast road to bear witness to incongruous sights and to the destruction wrought by those 2 punches from land and sea. But this also kept them outdoors and away from homes either destroyed or not trusted anymore. Rosaline and I are walking on what remains of her 6-foot-high garden wall. It was swept away by the tsunami and the house behind it obliterated. "I'm heartbroken and have no tears left to cry," she told me, adding she was grateful that her mother and son, the only two at home at the time, are still alive, albeit in hospital. It was here most of the fatalities occurred. People who just fled shaking buildings were stumbling about outside, giving thanks they'd survived the quake, when suddenly they were pummeled. But inland there were many lethal threats as well. This is the Patubo neighbourhood, and it was consumed by a paddy field that the earthquake lifted and moved more than a kilometre. They've laid a path of makeshift duckboards here, but you have to walk carefully, for beneath them the earth is molten. Where on Friday there was life, today there's an eerie quiet, interrupted by corrugated iron creaking in the wind. At one of Palu's main hospitals, 200 patients are spending another night outdoors. The hospital building is unsafe and they don't want to be inside anyway. These people don't want to be in Palu anymore. They're frightened, and many spent the day waiting patiently for a flight out of here. Their confidence, like part of their town, has been shattered.
US President Donald Trump says he wants a comprehensive FBI investigation into historic allegations of sexual assault against Judge Brett Kavanaugh, the man he's nominated for a seat on the US Supreme Court. Brett Kavanaugh has faced allegations of assault by several women, which he has denied. But now a former classmate of his says he has not told the truth about his past drinking.
After the traumatic she said and the defiant he said and the bitter division over the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court, the FBI has now been given a week to investigate the allegations. But at a Rose Garden news conference, the president was repeatedly asked, would investigators be free to talk to whoever they liked?
I think the FBI should interview anybody that they want within reason. But you have to say within reason. They should interview, but they should also be guided, and I'm being guided, by what the senators are looking for, because they have to make the choice.
The president told me he still had an open mind on Judge Kavanaugh.
Mr. President, if the FBI does find something and Brett Kavanaugh falls, is there a plan B?
I don't want to talk about plan B, because I hope that he gets approved. I hope that the report comes out like it should, like I really think it should. I think it will. I hope. But look, I'm waiting just like you. Certainly, if they find something, I'm going to take that into consideration. Absolutely. I have a very open mind.
A prosecutor engaged by the Republicans on the committee to question Dr. Christine Blasey Ford has written to senators saying that in her legal judgment, because of the he said, she said nature of the claims, I do not think that a reasonable prosecutor would bring this case based on the evidence before the committee.
Sometimes probably had too many beers, and sometimes other people had too many beers. We drank beer. We liked beer.
But a college mate of Brett Kavanaugh has also come forward to say that the judge wasn't being honest when he spoke under oath about his drinking. When Brett got drunk, he was often belligerent and aggressive. If he lied about his past actions on national television, and more especially while speaking under oath in front of the United States Senate, I believe those lies should have consequences. And on the subject of drinking, the teetotal president cracked a joke at his own expense.
I can honestly say I never had a beer in my life, okay?
Right.
It's one of my only good traits. I don't drink. Can you imagine if I had, what a mess I'd be? I'd be the world's worst.
The Supreme Court opened a new session today, still one person short, still far from clear that Brett Kavanaugh will be the 9th justice.
The U.S. state of Alaska is a key battleground in the fight over Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. One of its senators, Lisa Murkowski, could hold a deciding vote, but Indigenous Americans in Alaska oppose Kavanaugh for an important reason that has nothing to do with sexual assaults.
Catherine Martin is an Indigenous Alaskan, a member of the Mentasta Traditional Council. And while she and about 100 other natives in this village may be far out in the Alaskan wilderness, they are all in on the debate happening in Washington.
How many of you want to see Judge Brett Kavanaugh be confirmed and end up on the Supreme Court? Who doesn't? All of you?
Yes. Yes.
There are tens of thousands of indigenous people who live in Alaska. In past Senate elections, they have voted overwhelmingly for Lisa Murkowski, whose vote is key in determining if Brett Kavanaugh makes it to the Supreme Court. Everyone we talked to in this village strongly supports Murkowski because they say she understands their way of life and challenges.
We're experiencing rates of sexual abuse and domestic violence at higher rates than anywhere else in the country. And our Senator Lisa Murkowski, she knows that.
So there is great sympathy for Christine Blasey Ford among many in the Native community and among everyone we talked to in this remote village.
As a survivor of sexual abuse, I think it takes years for people to come out with this. You know, some victims come out with it immediately, but I think that some victims, it takes them a while before that they're able to talk about it, and I think this is what happened with this lady.
I think he is against women's rights and including Native rights.
And that's the other huge issue working against Kavanaugh and likely weighing on Senator Murkowski's mind, Native rights. In a case that went to the U.S. Supreme Court, Kavanaugh questioned whether the constitutional protections given to Native American tribes should also be given to Native Hawaiians. People here think that bodes poorly for them.
How concerned are you that Alaska Natives' rights could be taken away if Brett Kavanaugh ends up in the Supreme Court?
Very concerned. I mean, it's our way of life.
Alaska Natives consider themselves a modest people, but many of them are not particularly modest about the political influence they believe they hold, which they think Senator Lisa Murkowski needs to keep in mind.
Trust Indigenous people!
Just last week, Indigenous Alaskans were arrested while protesting outside the Washington, D.C. office of Alaska's other U.S. Senator Dan Sullivan. Nobody expects Sullivan to vote against Kavanaugh, but the message for Alaska's other senator is loud and clear.
So, if Lisa Murkowski votes ultimately to confirm Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court, what will your thoughts be about Lisa Murkowski?
She won't have my support in the future.
How do you feel about that?
She won't have my full support either.
What about you?
I would not write her name or put a check mark for her name.
Would any of you still vote for Lisa Murkowski?
No.
No. So you're counting on her to vote no?
Yes.
On Kavanaugh?
Yes.
And would you be surprised if she did vote yes?
Very.
Strong viewpoints from Indigenous people in a remote Alaskan village.
This is Tuesday's news on MTV. Stay tuned for Chukai Sports after these messages.
Chukai Sports.
Welcome to Chukai Sport. JCI Storm was crowned champion at this year's Ilimo Dairy Hiri East Rugby League competition. The Storm edged out Barakau Dugong 16 points to 12 in the A-grade division. The finals were played at Gairo Village in the Central Province.
It was a hard-fought match between both sides. The Storm dominated in attack, but the Dugons were brutal in defense. But the cracks began to show, and the Storm were able to score 3 tries with a missed conversion kick. The Dugons tried to fight back by scoring 2 tries, but it wasn't enough to get them the win. The day's earlier match, Lakwaharu Raiders beat Rochester Spartans 6 points to 0 in the under-20 division. Medals and trophies were presented to the premiers and special category winners by Ilimo Dairy Director Naubadu. The Ilimo Dairy sponsored event saw workers conduct awareness on nutritional benefits and share other information with the locals during the finals. The tournament ran for 4 months, with Ilimo Dairy supporting the event as a way of helping local initiatives such as the Hiri East Rugby League competition. Elijah Levette, National MTV Sports.
The KK Kingston Powerlifting National Championships is set to be held this weekend in Port Moresby. The tournament will be held at the Ben Moide Club at Mar Barracks. The best powerlifters will be selected from this tournament to be part of Team PNG at the 2019 Pacific Games in Samoa. Corporate Touch Port Moresby Association is shaping up to host one of its biggest grand finals this Sunday at the Oil Search National Football Stadium. The competition, now into its 20th year, has secured itself as the leading touch football competition in the country. A total of 9 matches are scheduled for this weekend's finals.
According to competition boss Baro Kirupana, since the association's inception 20 years ago, the competition has grown from strength to strength, fielding some of the best touch footy players of this generation that have gone on to make a name for themselves and for the country as national representative players. With this season's nearing its end, President Baro and his team of organizers have been working around the clock to ensure this year's finals is the one to remember.
So we have started 2018 competition in March, 11th March 2018. Up to now is almost 24 weeks.
The competition is backed by corporate entities in Port Moresby and state-owned enterprises who fielded most of the teams in regular season games. The competition alone consists of 23 affiliated clubs under the Corporate Touch Port Moresby Association with a total of 99 teams in different divisions. Sir John Guy Stadium played host to last year's finals and Sir Hubert Murray Stadium in the previous year. This time the organizers went out of their comfort zone and secured the home of Rugby League, Earl Sirt's National Football Stadium as the host venue.
There's 99 teams affiliates in different divisions, juniors, under 15, and seniors, and senior divisions that's open, senior mix and masters, and open divisions in a pool A and a pool B.
As the finals beckon, a total of 9 games and 18 teams will vie for the ultimate prize of being crowned champions of their respective divisions, in front of what is expected to be a sellout crowd on game day. A smooth running of the competition throughout the 2018 season, CTPM Operations Manager Jerry Boggs says the Grand Final is shaping up to be a thriller, as some of the country's top touch footy players runs out in the men's and women's A-grade division.
Currently we have a big number of PNG reps in the association, corporate touch, and yes, the standard is still maintained up there. So anyone from outside come and play here, they can really tell that our CTPM is already up there. We need to step up.
Director Kula added that the competition level is of high standard and continues to raise the bar every year whilst producing quality players, and encourages the public to turn up this Sunday and support the game. Pre-sold tickets are going for 2 kina for children under the age of 15 and 5 kina for adults. For those who can't buy the tickets at this stage, tickets will be sold at the gate on game day. Entertainment such as the raffle tickets draw and even the cultural sing-sing group is set up for a spectacular afternoon of footy action. Shane Saroya, National EMTV Sports.
You're watching Chukai Sports. We continue with more when we come back from this break. Stay tuned.
Chukai Sports.
Welcome back to Chukai Sports. To the NRL, despite going down to the Roosters 21 points to 6 on Saturday night's NRL Grand Final, Billy Slater praised his rugby career, saying great friendships were created and memories he's always going to remember. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Cameron Smith, who also congratulated the Roosters on their win, says preparations for the final was great. It's just that Roosters came down stronger. Smith says with the season now over, he is hoping he will get a new contract for the 2019 season.
Slater says Roosters were just too good with their defence and attack.
I just got out to a big lead and we just couldn't pull them back in. We tried our best, but that's the way it goes sometimes, and I'm really grateful for the career that I've had.
He says preparation-wise, Melbourne Storm came ready for the challenge.
Oh, look, we didn't help ourselves. We dropped a bit of the ball, but I think the Roosters were just too good. Their carries out of their end were a lot better than ours.
Meanwhile, Cameron Smith congratulated the Roosters, who put up a great game at the start to eventually take the lead to win the 2018 NRL Premiership.
We just didn't handle our start. We wanted to start. We wanted to start well, but the first 40 minutes really made it hard for us to get into the game, and I think they just did what they had to do in the second half just to keep us at bay.
Smith says he'll keep his hopes high for the 2019 season and hopefully sign a contract.
Well, if I get a contract, I'll play next year. So, look, I think we'll just do what we have to do tonight. Obviously, it's going to be a pretty disappointed dressing room.
Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
And that's a wrap for True Guys Sports for tonight. Stay tuned for the weather details for the next 24 hours after these messages.
Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
A look at the weather forecast in the southern region. Fine, although cloudy, Port Moresby. Fine weather in Kerama. Brief showers in Daru and Alutau. A shower or two in Popondita. In the Mamasa region, brief showers in Lae. Fine weather in Madang, Wewak and Whanimore. In the New Guinea Islands region, fine weather right across the region in Lorengau, Kavieng, Kokoporobau, Kimbe and Buka. And in the Highlands region, fine weather with fog in Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabeg.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
And that's the news, sport and weather for today, Tuesday, the 2nd of October 2018. On behalf of the entire EMTV news team right around the country, pleasant viewing. Good night.